Alright, so I'm out of Pescadero. There's a storm on the way, so I'm trying to get out before the rain. Not a lot of color and not a lot of light. I will just be focusing on shapes, playing around with composition. I'll be painting over an old 12 by 16 inch panel, and I'll be using my usual limited palette of colors. For the sky, I'm starting with a mixture of titanium white, ultramarine blue, and I've grayed down the mix a bit with burnt sienna. I'm gonna cover the panel as quickly as possible, just to eliminate the old painting. So I just approximated a color for the sky, keeping the mix thin, and I have thinned with liquid as well. The liquid will help the paint bind to the old paint. Added a bit more titanium white. Hopefully there will be little bits of blue that will show through at some point during the painting session. I'm always looking for light. Added some ultramarine blue to the mix for the distant mountains. I actually had trouble finding a spot today just because it's really windy, and this spot is protected, which is nice. I'm noticing some light on the distant shore here. So I probably will add that later. Added some cadmium yellow medium to the mix for this greenery in the foreground. And I mixed up a dark gray using ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. There's a bit of titanium white in the mix as well. Whenever I'm painting over an old painting, I try to cover the panel in about 5 minutes or less if possible. Got a warm gray here for the sand in the foreground. Got a mixture here of titanium white with a bit of cadmium yellow medium for the water. The seas are pretty stormy today, so there's a lot of white water. It's predominantly white water. I will be adding some color, but again, just trying to cover the old painting with a thin layer of paint. As I've mentioned before, I really enjoy painting over old panels, even though I realize it may be confusing for you guys. I had some leftover Viridian on my palette, so I mixed it with some titanium white and a bit of alizarin crimson. It's a good starting point for the darker water. Add some in the foreground here as well. Alright, so at this point I've got the panel covered, so I stand back about 10 or 15 feet just to look at the big shapes. And I feel like I want to bring the shoreline up a little bit right here. So I load it up with some titanium white. And I think I like that line better. I'll add a breaking wave right here. I'm noticing that the distant mountains are almost a pure ultramarine blue. And so I'm paying attention to light, but I'm also looking for bits of saturation as well. The ocean is really rough today, so it's creating a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. So I will be using atmospheric perspective to push back the distant land, and also some of these rocks in this area. Mixed up a light blue-green here using phthalo blue, titanium white, and cadmium yellow lemon. Seeing bits of light in the sky, so I'm quickly responding, trying to capture the light before it disappears. Adding some green to the beach. I'm gonna need to darken these greens up here just to make sure that they're quite a bit darker than the background mountains. Mixed in some ultramarine blue. And I may need to go darker still, but it's a good start. And I'm adding some warm bits to the cliffs in the foreground. Picking up a gray from my palette. I'm noticing that the clouds are sort of a dull purple color. Gray day paintings are difficult to paint, and they're difficult to sell. It seems like most viewers want to see a little bit of light and color if possible. I don't actually paint paintings to sell paintings. I mean, I don't mind selling paintings, and I do need to sell a certain amount in order to make a living. But I find that if I paint a scene that excites me or interests me and I'm happy with it, somebody else will appreciate it, most likely. A bit of light opening up right there. Quickly adding a light shape up here where the darker gray clouds meet the light. I'm noticing a purplish color. It's darker in value as well. Most people think that the purpose of painting is to create a good painting. I don't think that anymore. For me, painting is just an enjoyable state of mind to be in, or I should say the state of mind that I achieve when painting is the reward. It's just complete focus on something. I love the careful observation, just looking for the delicate shifts in color and value. It's such a nice way to spend some time. Adding some warmer bits to the sky. Always paying attention to value. Want to make sure that my sky stays darker than the white water. So I'm constantly looking at the scene and comparing. One of the nice things about painting the sky or painting the ocean is you have a lot of freedom to experiment and play around because the shapes are constantly changing. So it's just an opportunity to play around with abstract shapes. All right, so I'm stepping back from the panel every few minutes just to see how things are going. And I noticed that the sky, there's something cool going on there, so I don't want to touch it. I want to leave it the way it is. And I've often said one of the most important things about being an artist is noticing when something is working and not painting over it. There's actually two different bits of land in the distance. So I'm darkening this one here to create a little separation. But I still do want the value to be light enough that it sits in the distance and doesn't come forward too much. So I want to keep the contrast low and the value fairly light. There's some light on the distant cliffs, so I'm using a mid-tone warm mixture here. I stepped back and realized that I need to darken the water a bit, especially at the horizon here. But I need to darken up these greens in the foreground. Create a little bit of separation from the distance. I need more contrast between these two shapes here, so I have a choice. I can darken the green here, or I can lighten the background color. All right, so I squint at the scene for reference. I know it's far away, but the distant land over here is very light in values. I think I'm going to try to lighten the distant land because the foreground land is not very dark in value, just because there is so much moisture in the atmosphere. There's quite a bit of mist over the water. I've also got to darken the water in the foreground. This color might be a bit too saturated. I think I'll gray it down a bit. Adding some more ultramarine and some burnt sienna. All right, so here's what I finished up with. This painting took just over an hour to complete. It was finished on site. I have not done any touch-ups. However, I'm considering lightening up these distant mountains right here so there's increased contrast between the land in the foreground and the land in the distance. I did lighten up the distant hills here, but I think I need to lighten them up just a bit more. One of the challenges when painting on an overcast day is that the value range is very narrow. So it's very difficult to create a dynamic painting, I think, because the contrast is sort of low. However, I think there's some nice subtle things going on in this painting, in particular in the sky. I think the sky worked out really well. Another thing I'm considering is adding some warmer tones in this landmass in the foreground here. Maybe some rust colors and also some warm greens. As I mentioned, I'm usually not happy with the results I get on overcast days. I think it's partially because of the low contrast and the lack of color. But I am satisfied with this painting, and it's fun to just get out there and keep trying. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to see some extra videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. It's the Patreon support that helps keep me making these videos, and it's much appreciated, so check it out. Other than that, stay creative. I'll see you guys in the next video.